Welcome to FPL Selection. Today we'll take a look at how the team is shaping up for Game Week 27, but first a quick look at how we got on in Game Week 26. So 73 points and another rise in the ranks, now just inside the top 100,000. I'm really happy with that considering a lot of people played the triple captain this week and I decided to hold on to it. I had a clean sheet for Guehi, assists and Defcon for Gabriel and Rice over the double, and the goals came from Palmer and Strand Larsen. So overall, a really good week. Happy that I've saved my triple captain for a future week. The team's looking good going into an important part of the season for, trying to get the most points as possible. So yeah, can't complain about it. And yeah, I think there's a good chance I can secure, at least top 100k and potentially might even be able to push for the top 10k. So yeah, very happy, and yeah, we'll move along with some transfers in the bank as well. So looking ahead now to Game Week 27, I've got 4 free transfers in the bank, as I said. Got quite a few targets in mind for the next couple of weeks. There's a few sort of fixture turns, and yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to sort of bank quite a few transfers coming into this point of the season. In midfield, I'm looking to get 2 out of Semenyo, Wirtz and Dango, or potentially even one of the Bournemouth midfielders. I think Enzo, it makes sense to get rid of him. I don't need double Chelsea attack. They've got some really tough fixtures coming up. And we're seeing Palmer, really hitting form at the moment and looking much more like himself. So I'm happy to hold Palmer because I think he can do anything, in any game really. And Enzo, as good as he's been in points, I don't think he's that kind of asset that, you can depend on him to get something every week. So I'll be happy to get rid of him. And Rice would be the other one I'd be looking to get rid of. I think, as I've said before, he's a nice one to hold for a long portion of the season. He'll tick over nicely, get you little bits and pieces. But I think for me right now, I want to score the points in these next sort of 5 to 6 weeks, because usually what ends up happening is everybody wild cards sort of for the last 8 weeks or so. Everyone has very similar teams, and then it becomes quite difficult because, most people are going to go for teams that double, and it's just going to be quite sort of difficult to differentiate. It's kind of why I played the wild card early as well, was just to get the points on the board now, get in front, and then you can play a bit more defensive and, have something similar to what the majority will, which generally becomes quite obvious, as I said, because, most people are going to go for the good players that have doubles. So yeah, so I think for me at the moment, Semenyo's the number 1 pick. He's just so highly owned. There's a couple of my mini leagues, people have got him, and he just keeps returning. So I just want to block that off at the moment, and he's looked really good since he's been at City, and he should play most of the games. So for me, he's definitely coming in. I would have already brought him in if I had the budget to do it in one move, but he's already risen in price, so I will need a second move to get him in. I'm looking at Wirtz, I'm looking at Dango. I think Liverpool and Brentford have got great fixtures coming up. I want to see a little bit more of Liverpool. I'm probably going to try and watch their game this weekend just to get a feel for whether Salah might be worth a look, or, maybe Ekitike looks a bit better. But I think Wirtz has been great for about sort of 5-6 weeks now. Had quite a few double-digit returns. So, yeah, I'm pretty keen on him for Liverpool's good run of fixtures. And Brentford, great fixtures pretty much for the rest of the season. Dango's really cheap. Looked good since he's come back from AFCON, and he's always, he's a nice player to watch. He's always threatening and quite direct. So, yeah, just got to sort of find that right combination from those 3. And as I said, I am looking at the Bournemouth midfielders as well. Ryan, Adley, potentially Tavernier if he's back shortly. So, yeah, keeping an eye on all of those at the moment. Semenyo almost certainly will come in this week, I think. And then I'll, one more week to assess the others. The other sort of priority transfer for me is Thiago. As I said, with Brentford, great fixture until almost the end of the season. Really highly owned. He's on penalties. The only reason I took him out of my team was just to go for Strand Larsen as a punt for 3 weeks. And that was my original plan, was just to move him straight back to Thiago. But I am now considering taking Haaland out. I think he's not really performed to the level of, sort of 14 plus £1 million asset. He's got these niggling injuries. He seems to have this every year where he tails off a little bit more in the second half of the season. And I wonder if it's just, the little injuries build up and it just becomes harder for him to be so explosive. He doesn't really do anything in the games unless he's, getting on the end of chances. So, it's up to City to create the chances for him. And I'm not sure he's worth that money at the moment. I think I could get Semenyo in, get some of the City points. Maybe I'd lose out a little bit here and there, but I think if I take him out, it will allow me to put in real good quality across the whole midfield. I'll have Thiago, Strand Larsen, and potentially move to Ekatike in the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, I really want to get Thiago in either this week or next week. And it will, like I said, I will need to sort of shuffle the budget around a little bit. So, if I do take Haaland out, obviously that frees up a lot of money and it'll make it easier to, have a stronger squad. So, yeah, I think he'll come in one way or the other in the next couple of weeks. Semenyo will be in too. And yeah, I have another week just to look at the other options. So looking at the team for this week, Sanchez has Burnley at home. Obviously, this is probably the peak fixture of this little Chelsea run. Had no clean sheets from them. 2 goals conceded again against Leeds, which was disappointing. So yeah, I think I'll be happy to move Sanchez on after this week if I need to save a little bit of budget. So yeah, it's sort of the last chance really to see if Chelsea look a little bit more solid under Rafinha. I think Burnley have sort of been a bit more, sort of relaxed and loose, with their play recently. They're sort of got nothing to lose now at this point because they just need to put the wins in. It's very unlikely they're going to, avoid relegation at this point. So they might as well go for it, and that has opened up, their defence a little bit recently. So maybe it's probably not a banker clean sheet anymore because they are quite attacking. But yeah, you'd be disappointed if Chelsea get no clean sheets out of this little run. So yeah, happy to obviously have a Chelsea defender against Burnley, but certainly not that confident anyway in them defensively at the moment. Guehi is at home to Newcastle. Obviously, Newcastle's a tricky fixture, but a home game. They've obviously travelled in midweek to Azerbaijan, so hopefully they'll be a little bit leggy here and won't have too much to bother City. Guehi's looked very good since he's come in, played all the games that he's been available for, so yeah, I've got no doubts on his minutes at the moment. He's hit DEFCON a couple of times as well, so yeah, very pleased to have him in there. And at 5.2, it's quite a cheap way into the City defence, and what should, fingers crossed, be good for the minutes anyway in most of the games. Then Saliba is away to Spurs, and I've got Gabriel for the double Arsenal defence. Really difficult to call this one. Obviously, with a new manager coming in, it's either going to be really comfortable for Arsenal. It could be a 0-0. Maybe Spurs go really defensive for this one, or maybe it's a crazy game because they just decide it's a free hit for them and they can just attack, try and get some positivity in the crowd. So I have got a slight temptation. I could play one of my Sunderland defenders, probably Mukiele, in for Saliba, but I think you just got to continue to back that Arsenal defence until you see anything change. So obviously not getting cleans against Brentford or Wolves was a bit disappointing. But yeah, you'd have to back them to, turn that round because they've been really good this season defensively. So yeah, I'll be playing both my Arsenal defenders and just, not with too high of an expectation. But I think that's the best move considering my options this week. Moving on to the midfield, Rodgers is at home to Leeds. Should be a really good fixture this for Villa. Had a couple of bad results recently. I think Rodgers had a 15-pointer in the reverse fixture against Leeds. So, yeah, there's got to be positivity here that he can get something. Been really good this season, Rodgers. He can sort of score from any position really around the box. So, yeah, always got that little bit of confidence with him in most games. I think Leeds will obviously be quite defensive, being an away game. Obviously not as good away from home as there are, at Elland Road. So maybe not going to get too much here, but yeah, you want to back Villa to turn it around at the moment because they've, dropped a few points recently. So yeah, quite hopeful there to see something. Then Rice is away to Spurs. As I said earlier, difficult to know what we're going to get from Spurs. But it showed again in that double game week Rice that he just picks up little bits and pieces, gets, bonus points, assists, DEFCON. He's just always capable of picking up those little bits and pieces, and it can add up over the season. So potentially that position is going to be Semenyo if I do end up making some transfers, but I certainly wouldn't be disappointed to have Rice anyway for another week. As potentially that could end up being a high scoring game. So I'll certainly be motivated for it anyway, Arsenal. Looking for a good result to put the pressure on City again. And Fernandes is away to Everton. Obviously been really good, Bruno Fernandes, since coming back from his injury, picking up points most weeks recently. So I think United will want to get back to winning ways. Obviously disappointed with the West Ham performance and result, I think. Everton haven't been that great at home this season. I think their away record's been a little bit better. So, yeah, you have to back Bruno Fernandes in any game, really. And I don't think Everton are that great at home. So I don't see this as a really tricky fixture. But also, I don't think there's going to be loads of goals in it. But with Bruno, you've always got that chance of anything. So, yeah, happy to have him. It'll probably be my vice captain this week. I'd be a little bit more reluctant on the captaincy, but if you didn't have any Chelsea players and you wanted to, go Bruno Fernandes, I certainly wouldn't have an issue with that either. Then Palmer is at home to Burnley, and I've got the double Chelsea attack with Enzo Fernandez. Obviously, this is the final good fixture of Chelsea's nice little run. Palmer's been looking really good in the last couple of games, looking much more like himself. I think he's had a bit more freedom since Rosenior's come in, just to do his own thing, and he's obviously had the penalties to, increase his scores there really, but he is the penalty taker, and Chelsea are a good attack. They certainly looked a lot better under Rosenior. A little bit more freedom, I think, and they seem to be putting up the good numbers. So yeah, he's going to be my captain this week. I don't think there's any point in overthinking that. Really good attack, top player against a team that's probably going to get relegated. And having Enzo Fernandez there as a secondary attacker, yeah, sort of quite happy I got these two in nice and early, and it's sort of culminated in quite a few points recently. So yeah, Palmer captain this week. And potentially I would have captained Enzo if I didn't have Palmer. So I think, yeah, looking forward to seeing what those two can get this week. Then moving on to the forwards, Haaland is at home to Newcastle. I think it looks like he's been in training, Haaland, so I don't think his injury issues are, anything too serious. I think he should end up playing. But I think with him, it's just a case of, I think he's just had a lot of games, a lot of little niggling injuries probably. That's why we've seen sort of a few early subs and not starting every single game. So I just think for his price, he's not really getting those big hauls as often as he was earlier in the season. So obviously happy to have him in a home game. Newcastle have been travelling during this week, so maybe they'll be a bit leggy. But I did look up his record against Newcastle. I think he's only got 1 goal in 6 appearances against them in the Premier League. So doesn't have the best record against them, and we know that how we'll try to set up defensively, generally in away games. So yeah, it looks like he's got a plan that does work to keep him quiet, and they've obviously had a few games against City this season, and they've got the FA Cup game as well. So I'm sure they've been studying it quite hard. I don't think it's a fixture where he's going to score lots. He might get 1, so I'm quite happy to not worry about him for captaincy this week. And like I said before, I am potentially looking to take him out of my team as well. So yeah, happy to hold him. I'm pretty sure he's going to play, but equally for the price of his, I'm not sure he's worth that money at this point in the season. So yeah, potentially looking to move him on in the coming weeks. Then Strand Larsen has Wolves at home. Obviously really happy to get the 2 goals last week. As I said, I brought him in just for the 3 weeks, and this being the third game of that run. The plan was to get Thiago back. yeah, he's had quite a few chances in both the games. I don't think Palace have been that good. In all honesty, they didn't look great um, in the last game. So, but I think he's just one of those players. He gets on the end of things. Potentially on penalties. I'm not sure about that, but at 6.1 million in a good attacking team, when they're in form. I think Wolves at home, obviously not as easy a fixture as it was earlier in the season, but you'd still have to back Palace at home to create some chances. And yeah, Strand Larsen certainly already shown that, he's going to get on the end of things. So yeah, happy to have him for this week and just see how he looks, really, whether I decide to keep him longer term or not. So in summary, Palmer captain this week seems like a no-brainer. We'll probably go Bruno Fernandes as vice captain. As I said earlier, I'd like to get Semenyo and Thiago this week. Certainly Semenyo anyway. But for him, I would need the second transfer. So I'll see if there is any news on Haaland. It does look like he probably will at least be in the squad anyway. I don't think he's got a bad injury. But as I said, I am considering taking him out anyway. Just not really providing that, explosiveness for his price, and could potentially upgrade a few positions if I did drop him down to Thiago. So yeah, something to think about up until the deadline anyway, because obviously it's quite a big decision to go against him. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.